2 matches down, 4 to go. He's heading into our 3rd series of the day. It's going to be between SIB and Strongsage, and it's going to be quite an interesting matchup, this, I'm sure. As we know, we've seen SIB claw a few maps here and there from some of the top dogs. So kind of a little bit similar to what we've seen from SIB as well. And for Strongsage, he's trying to create that path of destruction, and he's had been in very good form at the very beginning against some of those top players. And now this is his chance to try and get some clean sweeps or at least some series win to boot in order to put himself a little bit further up the leaderboard, Dan.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we spoke about it a lot all season long now. I think Strongsage has been mightily impressive, very much still a diamond in the rough with a lot to improve in his game. But when he feels himself, when he gets into that momentum, he's a very scary player because he plays a little bit unorthodox. He likes to be aggressive. He has these more funky picks as well up his sleeve. So it really does put a lot of players off. And I think honestly, he's quite frustrating to play against because of that. And that's why we've seen him pick up these shock results throughout. And even though there's a lot of losses on that board, there's still a lot of maps that he's picked up along the way against the very best players in the league. So absolute credit to him and the way in which he plays, absolutely no fear as well. And it's been great to see, but he's still sitting in the lower bottom of the leaderboard. So this is a bit of a decider to see who can find themselves in a healthier position.
And you can see, look at all those maps he took away. He even defeated Razy 2-1. And I kind of feel like now he's got, I think, at least the majority or most of the top players out of the way now. So a little bit more smooth sailing, so to speak, towards the end of the Quake Pro League now to really help him buff up a little bit further onto that leaderboard, because it was rough. Like, you saw the first 6 or 7 games there, Zeneku, Razy, Wenger, Rafa, etc. It's very, very tough ask. But SIB has been, even though he's a little bit further down the leaderboard, he's actually 15th currently, and he's only played 10 matches. There's room for him to try and get up to the 14th or 13th seed kind of margin. So if he keeps clawing his maps here and there, as he has done previously, as you can see as well, against Wenger, against Dramas, he had a fantastic start at the beginning, Dan, but when it went Pete Tong as we go further down the list. But you can see the maps he's been clawing back from Maxter and Wenger, as well as Zeneku, notably.
Yeah, once again, a lot of losses, but the deciding factor here is that he has a lot of maps he's been picking up as well, which is why he's not bottom. And in spite of that, I do think it's in terms of play style, I think the best we've seen from SIB. I think he feels more confident and comfortable in the league, and because of that, it does come through in the way in which he plays. And I think it's obviously no secret that I have been quite frustrated in previous seasons watching SIB, because the way in which he had played just showed an absolute lack of confidence and zero chance of him winning at all. But he's shown here through those results that if he comes out and plays his game, he can take maps off at the very best. Absolutely took maps off people like Kilson. So we just need to see more of that SIB, and he'll find himself in a healthier position. And it all comes down to that self-belief, I believe.
Yeah, I do agree with that as well. With SIB right now, I do agree with you that the fact that it's probably the best he's been performing so far. It's been a thorn in the backside of some of his players, and at least 3 or 4 of the top players he's taken at least 1 map off. So it's given him, like I said, a little bit of confidence, but it also shows us that he may have a bit of potential to take a series at the Quake World Championships or cause an upset, and these are the kind of signs we're looking for here especially. But let's take a look at the picks and bans to see what to expect, because I was very interested to see what Strongsage brings to the table, because even though he does bring out these quite not meta picks, but quite random picks which favors him or which he prefers, also it's great just due to the fact that he's got a wide varied champion pool, which is absolutely crucial in this matchup. And already coming out with a Scale versus the Anarchy and Molten Falls. We've got the Death Knight coming out against the BJ on Corrupted Keep. And somehow, after getting to the 3rd map, I don't remember last time I saw a clutch on map number 3.
Man, Strongsage does not give a shit. He just
he
picks whatever he wants, whenever he wants it. I don't even know what to say at this draft. I'm completely honest. This is bananas. Yeah, I mean, Scale Bearer Molten. I can't even think about the last time we saw that champion on Molten in particular. Scalebearer is always a bit of a specialized pick. I know DJ Wheat's probably looking on thinking he's lost that map. Well, I'm going to say he hasn't lost that map because he knows how to play it very, very well. And then the interesting thing for me across the board here is how SIB has counterpicked that, right? Because in map 1 and map 3, SIB had the last pick, the second pick. And he decided to pick an Anarchy, and he decided to pick an Athena. Obviously, the complete counter opposite of what that champion has to offer. And so SIB is banking on his ability to outplay Strongsage. He's banking on his ability to control the items and outposition his opponent. And obviously, if you fail to do that, you will get steamrolled. There is no other way to say it. And so they're obviously the two maps I'm looking at thinking, where are these going to go? Map 2 is a little bit more stable. Obviously, we don't see a lot of Death Knight, but you know what Death Knight can bring, right? It's going to explode your opponent or zone them. There's only real two options there. So yeah, map 1 and 3 obviously is what we're all looking at and thinking, all right. And SIB obviously knew he had the last pick, and if he wasn't going to ban Clutch on map 1, it was going to get through. So he allowed it to get through, and he would have known that Strongsage was going to pick it. So let's see what he's got planned.
Yeah, and then of course, Strongsage not the biggest fan in terms of the larger maps in the map pool, banning Blood Covenant and then banning Ruin straight afterwards. And SIB probably knew that with the Clutch still available, you know, well, we've seen him use the Clutch on Veil and Awoken in the past, and it's been extremely difficult to deal with. And some people may say they're a little bit more comfortable on Awoken dealing with the Clutch rather than the Veil. The Veil can be really a tough road against a lot of these Clutch players, and you can see with Crux of Kit, the reason why we've got that BJ versus Death Knight matchup is because Struggles bans on from SIB from the get-go, and Strongsage bans Ranger, most probably assuming that SIB is going to go for the BJ pick straight afterwards, so you plan the Death Knight accordingly. But for SIB though, he has actually banned the Doom on that last map, because we know both these players can play Clutch. I would say that Strongsage is the better Clutch player, even though he's probably not as experienced as SIB. But then again, saying that, we've seen a lot of Clutch in the Pro League coming out from Strongsage overall.
Nope, that's what I mean. He obviously wants to play against it. He would have known that Strongsage was going to pick it. And so when you have that level of confidence, you got to deliver. So let's see.
Yes, you have to deliver indeed. We know that SIB has done quite well against some of his top players here. Maybe not the series victory, but this could be a time for it. But Strongsage knows that he's gone through most of the top players already in this league. And now it's on the other side. The league now to try and get these victories if he can. But SIB isn't going to be any easy feats, I'm sure. As we'll be starting off from his perspective. Let's see exactly what he can muster against Strongsage.
Yeah, let's see. Obviously, the challenge is trying to whittle down your opponent before they rush you on a map like Molten. It's quite hard to do that, in fact. There's pathing and routes where you can get out and get around the map. So you can close the gap without taking much damage. But it's still quite hard to trap your opponent because of the geometry and because of these choke points as well. Oh, SIB drops on a little bit early. That's a big mistake already from SIB, mistiming there. And he's now completely out of position, out of control. So what is SIB going to do?
Yeah, good question. Mega's up in the next couple of seconds. Heavy's up in 12. Not really met any damage with the machine gun, but at least that way hit him with that last rail. Does recover a little bit, but he's not really in position to contest. And you can see Strongsage already planning a trap coming out with the LG, as he's not going to go for that. As he's picked up the heavy, he's got height control now. He's now got position on the Mega, hits the rail, and then it's going to chase straight after him and hits the rail again. Yeah. Back to back. So Mega's up in the next second here, Dan.
Yep. And the big issue for SIB at the moment is that he is being outrailed, or at least matching toe-for-toe for Strongsage when he has absolutely no items to work with. As Strongsage has the whole map, he can just barrel through this Anarchy. There's nothing he can do, and it all comes back down, wow, to that first missed timing. Once again, he's on point, but at what cost? He's already popped the inject, and this is going from bad to worse from SIB.
It really is, and Strongsage knew that he can't really give SIB that lead. Ball rushing straight in towards the rail and cleans up for that full frag. He could make it a fifth here. Still has to start to contend with as well. And he hasn't got the inject either, so he can't continue the bout as long as he would like. But even with that inject, I don't think it's going to really make too much more of a difference already. So now 5-0, and we haven't even breached the 3-minute mark yet.
No. And SIB is not finding a way at the moment to do any sort of damage to Strongsage, particularly no unreturned damage to Strongsage. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what that plan was when your opponent had just picked up 3 items. Almost reeks of desperation when 3 minutes in, SIB is just trying to make things happen and it's not working.
Certainly isn't. Hit with another rail is going to make that 6 momentarily. And this is crazy. I didn't expect this kind of scoreline so early between these 2 champion matchups, but Strongsage is just hitting absolutely everything at the moment.
I was about to say, a big part of this dominance, okay, a big part of this dominance is down to the fact that Strongsage is connecting with so many clutch shots. Yes, if he had missed any of these, SIB might have a small opening to do something, but at the same time, SIB isn't doing enough either. Oh dear. It is 70% rail from Strongsage against an Anarchy. A lot of these have been flick rails. That is nuts.
Yeah, it's getting rough. 75% accuracy from SIB, but like you said, 70% against the Anarchy. Taking it 72 now, just making matters worse. 9 to -1.
All right, SIB gets an item and a frag, so he's back up to 0, but already 9 to 0.
Yeah, unbelievable. And even with the shots he's hitting, it's the important shots. It's not just dead shots where he's going to back away and recover from. It's important shots just to secure these frags. It's that first one. Is SIB now going to rotate back around to see if he can do a little bit more? As he's going to try and catch up. And I think at this point, even at the halfway stage, he needs to. He doesn't really have much of a choice in the matter if he wants to try and tie this back up. But like this as well from him, pick up the light thing, going straight towards the heavy afterwards. He does have the mobility, mind you, but of course you've got to be careful with the scale starting to stack and potential trade which could come out from Strongsage, which of course he's going to go for at some point.
And the challenge for SIB as well is that Strongsage can take obviously a lot more risk. He has the 8 frag buffer, but he has a much bigger stack as well if he can get up to it, so he can actually take these risks, push through these choke points and do this type of maneuver, because even if he doesn't get the frag, if he makes SIB weak, look at the stack, look at the spawn. He can now just run at his opponent. This is why it becomes so challenging for a light champion, because your opponent just has a lot more margin for error.
Oh, a little bit unfortunate there. SIB was hoping to grab that light before Strongsage could, so he can trade out from that previous engagement, but didn't get there in time. Heavy's up in 5. The bull rush is going to be following suit as well. 4 minutes left in play. SIB has got a lot of work cut out for him here with that 8 frag deficit, and with Strongsage and this huge stack advantage as well. It will be just a matter of time here as he catches him as he's going down the jump back, make a jump back, cleans him up with the LG, and took almost barely any damage.
Yeah, absolutely none whatsoever. And does feel like SIB is at our ideas now. And it's got to credit Strongsage as well. Just played remarkably. And I look at this again and think, you've got to be really confident in yourself to pick Anarchy against the Scalebearer. Because if you don't execute, if you get behind, if your opponent hits more than you, your life becomes an absolute misery. And we're seeing that again today with all of these clutch rails coming out from Strongsage's side. And another one! 12 to 2, 66% rail. Wow, Strongsage has come to play.
He really has done. Not really given SIB a chance to even play the chip game as well, just keeping his distance, just been charging at him constantly. Up that rail jump pad, 2 minutes 45 left, already 13 to 2 here. Dan is going to catch him as well. Even he pops the inject, but it's going to be a bit of a waste because there's absolutely nothing he could do, just in his face.
DJ Wheat, are you watching? I want to see you eat some humble pie right now.
He probably saw the score at 5-1 and then went to get a brew.
Yeah. Serves him right. This is one of the matches I feel really bad and want to throw in the towel for SIB. This is actually really painful.
It really is indeed. There's nothing he can do now. Pretty much mathematically impossible just to get a few frags to give him a tiniest bit of confidence boost going into map number 2. But even then, though, Strongsage hasn't switched off at all in the slightest. It's continuing as though it is still a close affair. Mega is up. Heavy is up in the next couple of seconds. Still got that ball rush ready and set to be used. But still, though, can't really see a way in for this. Not in terms of this matchup, but in terms of getting a few more frags to his name.
No. And Strongsage has just gone into full turtle mode. Now he's at the point where he doesn't really care. He's in a position where if SIB wants to frag him, he has to go to him. And if he goes to him, he fights on Strongsage's terms. So, yeah, not much to be done. There you go.
Almost a silhouette to him. It does get away, but it's not going to be for long. I'm sure it's going to be short-lived if he does try and continue for that mega contestation. But SIB's already picked that up, finds him, still on the hunt, but just playing about with him in terms of the audio cues at the moment, and still has that heavy intact. And speaking of items, 9 items for SIB and 22 for Strongsage with a 65% accuracy with that rail to the 57 of SIB.
Yeah, this has been brutal, and this is what we expected. Yes, Scalebearer can look like a meme sometimes, but it is an incredibly good champion when used in the right circumstances, and this is one of those matchups where it was executed well, and a lot of things obviously went Strongsage's way, but you can also see how scary it can look when those things do work. And at the same time, you know, SIB definitely didn't play well, but Strongsage played phenomenally.
Oh, again, just making it even worse. 15-2, even with the scale as well. That was great stuff there from Strongsage. A commanding performance from the very get-go. And you can see in terms of damage as well, 820 more damage compared to SIB. And as I mentioned before, you know, SIB needed to play that chip game, the range game, to really give himself any kind of effort or effect in order to go for some of these items to secure some of these frags. But when you got someone so aggressive with the scale and how efficient he was with the scale on top of that, it really was a tall order. Really was indeed.
Yeah, but you got, look at these fights. He's just trying to take macho fights when you've just got to be prepared to play the slowest of slow games. Just play around audio cues, play incredibly silent, and play it for a 1-0 victory after 10 minutes if you're going, or even a 2-1 if you're behind. Like, you just can't afford to leave yourself in these vulnerable positions or try to match in a man fight, because he was getting outgunned. He had no stack, and unfortunately SIB did not find a way to even look like he could slow the tempo of that game. Nor did he really look like he had a strategy to do that. So, yeah, it was an interesting pick to go for the Anarchy, and it definitely didn't work out. And I just want to, obviously got off to a bad start, but I would love to see a different take on the way in which you should approach that, because Strongsage was hitting everything, and it made SIB's life a misery.
Yeah, and misery is definitely an understatement from what we witnessed there. It was absolute madness. Incredible stuff there coming up for Strongsage anyway, but we'll go into map number 2 and see if it's going to be a closer affair. It's going to be the BJ versus the Death Knight. Of course, BJ was more metal and cut to keep once upon a time. It's still used, you know, now and again, depending on if the range in the Strog or Galena has not been selected, but BJ's always been the next best option, or if not still one of the best option in this game. It just depends on the matchup you need to contend with. But of course, when we saw their Strongsage banning the Ranger, he knew it's going to be forced onto the BJ for SIB and has decided to go with the Death Knight. So curious to see what he can do here in this little scuffle.
Yeah, we don't see it that often anymore, but is it still a decent enough pick. Weaker than it once was, but still decent. And it's just one of those more specialized picks. And we've seen Strongsage, we talked about in the intro, he likes these quirky picks. He likes to play what he's comfortable with. And it really does offset some players, because when you're so used to playing against a particular play style, a particular champion set, when somebody comes in and just disrupts that, it throws you off your game and can frustrate you if you're getting caught off guard, or if they're making maneuvers that you just don't understand. It can be quite frustrating. It was almost like when we saw Razy come on the scene. You know, he was setting up these traps and taking these really weird positions, and some players just couldn't cope with that. So there is some reminiscence of that. It's just Strongsage does it on steroids.
Yeah, that's probably... You couldn't really work out a better analogy than that, in all fairness. It's like when Razy brought out the slash on Deep Embrace, or seen the slash come out on Corrupt to keep from Maxter. Just absolute madness. But already a fight breaking out between the two very early on, as Strongsage did have a machine gun, but SIB comes out with a shoddy from the rocket side and going straight into that red room, assuming he's going to spawn it, but has found him on the bottom, but needs to leave him be for now, as both items are almost in sync. Been caught off guard just a little bit, but has the LG in hand, so he can keep him at bay just a little bit more. But the problem is, if there's Strongsage still been extremely aggressive, jumping on down, hoping to get that flame strike and the rockets to boot. And yeah, Dan, he comes out on top. Unbelievable. Coming up with the LG anyway straight afterwards and makes it a second already.
My God, he just booped and deleted that fire went into his soul. Oh my God.
It really did. It really did indeed. That's absolute madness.
But apart from the culmination of that, what was really impressive about that was the amount of damage Strongsage was able to do prior to that. The chip damage, the heavy machine gun damage. He must have done nearly 100 damage before he got to that point. And so he's showing this level of culture way before his years.
Still keeping high ground, but now it's going to be dropping on down. Good damage there from Strongsage. He's going to play it safe and pick up those two bubbles in the armor. Knows exactly where he is in terms of position. Going to be diving on down. Used to flame strike. Does get him, mind you. And it's going to be a tough situation because he has to go for the TP to get those bubbles on Tribal, and it's just not going to happen.
Oh, Jesus. And already we're seeing the same. SIB is trying to go toe-to-toe with Strongsage and just hasn't got the mechanical skill to keep up with him. It's as simple as that. Strongsage has just already done 50% more damage than SIB. 1,500 damage to 900. Insane already differential when they've been going toe-to-toe.
Yeah, Strongsage's been playing lights out so far, just waiting for him to go back for the TP again, but he's in position to use a heavy machine gun. Good rocket to keep him at bay, trying to clean up with the LG, but also using those rockets to bait him into that entrance. But SIB, good patience from him, managed to get that second frag. And now again, both items not in sync, but not enough to contest both either, using the dual with that heavy machine gun. But you see there, Strongsage just keeping it cool, biding this time. Absolutely no point playing to his advantage here, but he has the advantage in terms of LG. But then again, Strongsage still played remarkably from that position. We know how difficult it is from that angle and the verticality with the LG.
Yeah, Strongsage, his scan is just unreal when it's on point. Now his aim, and particularly his rockets, I find are erratic. You see there, he missed 2 rockets on the entry and 1 in fight. That's always been his weakness when I've watched him, is when players can close the gap and get into these rocket duels with Strongsage, he is quite erratic. And that, for me, is where SIB can find some joy. But as we're seeing, in and around the map, Strongsage chip damage. Again, he's already got 60, 70 damage before SIB has fired a shot. That's where SIB is struggling.
Yeah, electric damage has definitely been a problem. You're absolutely right. Flame Strike comes out, though, but Strongsage does get taken down. And he's looking for that trade as well, but it's too late. Lights back up. He knows it's going to recover from BJ's passive as well. Good rocket. Picks up the light again. He's got room to pick up this heavy. And you can see where Strongsage played quite silently, so to speak, for a couple of seconds just to double check and to see which item he was going to go for, because obviously both items are still quite close together in terms of timing. Trying to get a couple of rockets off, but doesn't really get too much damage there.
No, and SIB is managing now to keep a track of his opponent and just go toe-to-toe in terms of that efficiency and damage. And as a consequence, we are seeing the damages begin to converge. So SIB is adjusting to the aggression from Strongsage. He's been forced onto the back foot now.
Strongsage just lapping the map at the stage. Trying to bait up these cues as well. We know SIB's is top mid, just guarding both entrances. Not pursuing any as of yet. But I like this from Strongsage as well. He's not making a direct route as of yet, and so he knows and can assess the full situation of where SIB is positioned, which is great stuff. But now he knows that it's free, Heavy's been picked up, he can now go for that Mega and try and bring this back.
Exactly. And now we get into a bit more of a traditional duel. SIB's finding more joy. As I say that, he just drops into Strongsage. Not the best decision. We've seen better decisions, I'm sure, compared to what we witnessed in the first couple of minutes of this matchup. Just up past the halfway point. Mega's still up. The fire will be extinguished thanks to that Mega, and cleans him up with the LG there. And it's all tied up here, Dan, so it was looking quite one-sided to begin with, but SIB has found his footing. He's able to stabilise this matchup, control the tempo a little bit more than he did, and able to use the information he requires in order to deal with whatever needs to be done in terms of the routes and position he needs to make. And he's just trying to back away with that heavy machine gun. And Strongsage looking to try and clean this up. But with the light, it's going to be even more difficult. Good stuff here from SIB, now taking the lead and picking up that Mega as well. Yeah, and Strongsage seems to have forgotten about the items a little bit now. So I say that he does pick up the heavy, but he's fighting in situations he might not need to, and that's working in SIB's favor. He's trying again to take this fight, make something happen, but giving up a frag. This time it is very dirty, and he gets SIB extremely low, so he can continue to push, which he know he will do. Second rocket doesn't connect, but Strongsage not willing to take the jump pad to finish it off. Instead, retreats and gets full control. So this time, he makes it work.
And Strongsage just picking up those hourglasses to get the next flame strike ready. It should be ready in the next couple of seconds, and just trying to delay it in time. He uses that rocket, but in the end didn't even need to use that flame strike. He's still got it in his back pocket, and with the stack he has still, he can continue to push those advantages. With the Mega coming up in the next few seconds, and just debating how to prioritise the kill next. Goes with that flame strike, but SIB comes out on top in that little scuffle.
Almost overzealous from Strongsage, just striding around the map. This is the way he plays. It's just ultimate confidence and wanting to fight. SIB this time manipulates that to his advantage.
Oh, for mid-air as well. Wait for the drop down again, but not going to happen. Strongsage will clean that up. Now only trailing by one frag behind. Catches him with the LG coming out of that red room. Picks up the Mega. Heavy's up in 5, so he's plenty of time to pick up both his items. But SIB's also in position to try and contest this if he can. Actually chops down with the dual wield. Good stuff from SIB, but the last rocket is just not going to do itself justice for SIB, as Strongsage now has tied things up and is actually still trying to do a little bit more here. A little bit of a surprise as Strongsage still dishing out a bit of damage from those rockets, but he's got the advantage massively in terms of height and angles, as well as the sprinkles of damage here and he had with those rockets, and still coming out with that LG, still coming out as well, making sure to try and clean this up to make it 10. Has got the heavy machine gun, but does a little bit more to him, and now able to pick up this heavy.
Yeah, that went from aggression to reckless very quickly. Twice SIB pushed in when he had no right weapon or position to do so. Fortunately, he only gave up one frag of the two, but he needs to check himself because Strongsage will ultimately wreck him.
I think the light is still available down the right side, but Strongsage is just baiting it out, going back for the Mega, and SIB has cottoned onto that. Still got a minute and a half left in play. Still room for SIB to make something happen. Stack advantages, of course, heavily in favour, but the 54 is not going to help. He can continue his path. Dual wheel comes out for SIB, but again, deleted, exactly. And he's going to go for it again, but good rocket though, mind you. But yeah, this is a fight SIB should not be taking. Backed away, and now he's trapped into a rock and a hard place. A minute left, 3 frag lead now for Strongsage.
Yeah, and ever since SIB got into that level of control and Strongsage took a little bit of a back seat, he did reserve himself. Once he got full control, that level of aggression's come back again, that efficiency came back again, and when he gets on the front foot, he just becomes a different player. And what was a tight game in terms of score and damage, once again, is incredibly one-sided.
Right, 890 damage more from Strongsage coming out at this moment in time. 22 items versus the 14 of SIB. But yeah, this is all done there now. This is going to be a 2-0 series currently, and SIB's just confirming that at the moment with the cheeky little red room jump. But yeah, it was a little bit unfortunate. Like, SIB did play that well at the start. It was yeah, questionable with some of the decisions with the aggression as well, but was able to stabilise, but then let things spiral out of control once again. So GG's again, and Strongsage will take the second map 12-7.
Yeah, a lot closer. Very fun map, but we just saw that SIB is unable to cope with the aggression at Strongsage when he gets in control, and it was a bit worrying to see how much more efficient, as I was talking about, that Strongsage was, particularly in the mid-range, just catching SIB off guard a number of times. And SIB wasn't able to force those close-range engagements. And then there was, you know, a minute or so of madness from SIB where he just got pulled into the Strongsage chaos ball and decided to continue to rush him without weapons off the spawn, and Strongsage made him pay for that. So the only way to beat Strongsage is to outplay him on the map, outplay him on the items, and force these fights, because then that's where Strongsage looks reckless. But when he gets in control, he's a completely different player, and he's very scary.
He really is. That's one. There's a bit of a difference between the top 4 players and Strongsage. They know how remarkable his combat skills are, and just in general, it's just, you know, nothing short of spectacular. But that's where, you know, the dueling experience and the veteran finesse and the capacity to do so is actually going to be extremely difficult. And the adaptation, of course, just to add to that, just a few little things. It's not always about aim. Doesn't matter how good your aim is. We've seen people get toppled massively by making them feel extremely uncomfortable. But Strongsage knows he's got a bit of way to go yet to head into that direction, but he is heading in the right direction, so to speak, as it's still very early on into his career. But SIB, though, he did keep that a close affair compared to that first map, compared to the 15-12 we witnessed from Strongsage on Molten Falls. And now we're heading into Awoken, and you made a very valid point as well. Both of these players do tend to whip out the old clutch now and again, and we'll have to see how SIB is going to have to contend with that this time round, now that he's on the opposite foot.
Yeah, we saw on map 1 that SIB didn't seem to play effectively well on a light champion against a heavy champion, and now he's going up against potentially an even tougher opponent in the clutch. We've seen Strongsage pull out some amazing maps on this clutch, on Awoken in particular. We've also seen him lose on it, so it is beatable, but you have to play smart, correct decisions. You got to hit your shots, because if you don't and Strongsage starts connecting, that's when you're in a lot of trouble. And, you know, SIB did not ban the clutch. He knows it's going to be picked, so as I said in the intro, you got to deliver, and we'll see.
This will be good practice from both these players as well. The fact that Strongsage is going to play against someone who knows how to deal with clutch and is a clutch player himself, where SIB is going to try and work out what to do if someone does pick for clutch as well, respectively. Because before, we may have only had 1 or 2 players in the Pro League now who uses the clutch quite effectively. But now we've got just under half a dozen. Of course, we've got Raze, you've got Strongsage, we've got SIB, we've got Chain on the odd occasion as well. So we've got a few here and there who've been widening their champion pool. And of course, if you've got some of the players who maybe don't choose one champion in particular for the entire season, or a couple, then it just means that they're a lot more predictable and know what to expect in terms of going for that pick and ban phase. So this is going to be interesting in itself. But it's going to the third map, currently 2-0 in the series between SIB and Strongsage. Strongsage is the one currently up by 2. We're going to see if he can make this a clean sweep with his old faithful clutch, and we can be kicking off from his perspective.
Yeah, let's see. I don't know if this was a bit of an ego pick from SIB to try and prove he could outplay it, but he clearly wanted to play it, so... And already he's not off to a good start.
Yeah, not the best. We've seen better, of course. Those missed rails are going to be a bit more helpful, but I think, like with Strongsage, when you've got someone with his kind of aim skill with a clutch, it's just so hard to contend with. Like, you'd imagine, like, maybe if someone like Sirius had the clutch as well, that'd be ridiculous. But SIB, it's coming back though, mind you, is actually tied things up and picked up the heavy and got that first initial rail. So crucial. Of course, the shield won't be available for Strongsage for another 10 seconds, which means this window SIB needs to try and take advantage of as soon as physically possible, which he has done, mind you.
He has, and he's in position for both major items. Strongsage is in a lot of trouble right now. I mean, yeah, there's no way you can contest for anything on the map right now, so he has to forfeit the map completely and get away. He still needs a rail. Without a rail, he cannot do anything. He can just spam and hope that SIB runs into it. Yes, he's got his life, and he's slowing the tempo, but he needs to get to the other side of the map. That's where SIB is camping.
Still hanging about that tribal area still. Just kind of assess the situation and decide what to or how to go from there. Heavy's up in 10. Decent rocket, so that's at least a little bit of leeway for Strongsage to come back in this matchup. Has got a high ground, but SIB decided to go straight on in. But again, another good defensive rocket coming out from Strongsage.
So he's done a great job to stabilize and run the clock down. So that's exactly what you need to do. I mean, Clutch might seem fun, aggressive, high-flying, but a lot of the game is this. It's playing slow and sneaky to get around the map without receiving any damage or minimizing your damage. Oh, we expected that to come through, and SIB runs into the bait, in fact. They both get out without too much damage. We'll say SIB gets the better of that engagement because he's in position for the heavy, and he burns the shield.
And I love that as well. Even though it's 15 seconds till the next shield to come back, SIB actually ate out the hourglass from the heavy machine gun, so make sure he doesn't get it any sooner, as he now is going to try and rotate all the way around. We'll catch him, mind you, but
nice.
Still in a difficult place, but he does pick up the mega, hits with the rail, but it's just barely able to stay alive on 27 HP, and still has to shield, hits the first rail, and look at this, SIB was still going for that frag and going for that trade and manages to succeed.
Yeah, but Strongsage wants to push. He knows that SIB is so weak, and he has the shield as well. So it will be a frag. Question is, how much damage does he take? Oh, he even tried to multitask and get the rail at the same time. That was cheeky. Doesn't get away with it, but lovely double back from Strongsage to steal away that mega. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh, great LG coming up from both players. Yeah, it was a little bit of a shame there, but has caught him, has got a shoot. Oh, he's trying to use him with that rocket. It's only on 17 HP. Still don't. I think only about a fourth on that range, and it's got the rail in hand once again. Just looking to continue that recovery. We've got a fair bit of go until it does fully recover, Dan.
The crazy thing is, Strongsage hasn't got any major item, and he's winning this game. Like, it's absurd that he's able to do this.
Realized. Yeah, only 4 items to the 11 of SIB, and you damn well know that when there's that turnaround for the item control, that's where things can spiral. As he comes up with the shield, he's actually got him in a choke point as well here, Dan. This is going to be looking good. Trying to fish up with that rail. It's only left on 2 HP. He's going to take the risk, but SIB was more than prepared for it. I was expecting it a little bit as well. As now 4 minutes in, SIB is only trailing by 1 frag behind as both players go for the mega. But sadly, Strongsage is going to topple him in that engagement.
The one thing I have noticed about Strongsage on Clutch is that he tends to rush his rail a little bit more. I think because he's so concerned about moving as quickly as possible to minimize the amount of damage he's receiving. He does then seem to drop in his rail percentages and misses shots you would expect him to, and that can come back to haunt him.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to maximise the situation, but the problem is, as you mentioned, if he's sacrificing that hit percentage with the rail, then technically it's not really maximise it as well. It's just too much of a gamble. Strongsage does take down SIB there. It's going to be in his face straight afterwards, but the shoddy is good, but not good enough, making it 3 in terms of the frag lead.
There's no scarier sight than that fridge flying at you. You just cannot get away. Here it comes again. Oh, this time he makes it work with a super shotgun, though.
Yeah, gives himself a bit of a helping hand there. But yeah, when you've got some fat billboard coming at you with like the aim skill of God knows what, then yeah, it's just it's just something you don't really want to think about in all fairness, but stacks are almost equal. Shield is up though. And you could see SIB there trying to bait that shield out and then back away, but Strongsage isn't actually falling for that at all.
Strongsage is such a good transformer name as well. I could see that.
Oh dear me.
This time he's out of position, actually uses the mining drill and gets away with the flick rail as well. Oh, that's got a sting for SIB. He had him dead to rights.
Yeah, I'm surprised Strongsage actually took that risk as well, but a very scary gamble, and very luckily for him that did pay off. But he's going to try and go for heavy. Doesn't even burn it, Dan.
It's like Jurassic Park with robots.
Yeah. Not seen Jurassic Park in a long time. Strongsage now a 5 frag lead, Dan. 5. So it'd be 6 at this stage, but I love how Strongsage now is just being extra cautious about how and when to use that shield and not to give SIB any kind of windows of opportunity to come back in this matchup.
And look at this now. This is the first time all game Strongsage has started picking up some major items, and it's just become incredibly scary for SIB right now. He can just eat all of the damage, absorb all of the resources. He then didn't even burn the shield. I mean, what do you do? Before, he was living off light armors and health. Now he's got major items, so you can absorb the damage, and you can then take away all the resources from SIB. I mean, yikes. And he's now connecting with the shots as well.
Yeah, it's what I mentioned earlier. I was extremely scared to see what was going to happen and if things are going to spiral out of control once Strongsage finally gets that full item control, which he has done, and look at the score difference. Now, oh, that was a fantastic peak shot there. 15 to 6.
Well, this has really separated the men from the boys today. And a big part of it was just that draft again. Like, you know what Strongsage is going to do. I spoke about it in previous weeks. I think he relies heavily on getting the champions he wants to play, because he just disrupts the game when he plays almost cheesy like this. But he makes it work. And SIB gave him the champions he's comfortable with, and you can see the result.
And you really don't know what to ban either, because it seems to be different every single time. He doesn't really keep his matchups the same as what we normally witness, do we? And like, could you imagine, like, in a best of 5 of obviously the Quake World Championships, if it was a best of 5 all rounds, then yeah, it's going to be even more difficult to muster the, you know, an educated guess into what he could be selecting. Yeah, sure, there's a couple maps which seem to be quite obvious, but as we go more into the league, you'd think that we'd be able to have an estimated guess into what we could expect, but time and time again just brings out these wacky champion picks, which heavily benefits him.
Yeah, but there's only so many of those picks on the board. As soon as you move into best of 5 territory, it really does become more of who... Oh, no. Oh, that's going to be an XD. It does become more of who is the better player, whereas, you know, Strongsage's selections definitely favour this best of 3 format. But he's got all of the capabilities to transform that into a more methodical, standard playstyle. We just haven't seen him need to do that enough. And when he gets these picks, you can just see how proficient he is.
He really could indeed. 20 seconds left, of course. Just finished up a few minutes ago. 17 to 6, trying to make it 18, and he does make it 18. Yeah, my goodness, absolutely crazy matchup. But this is what I like about it as well, with these new players coming up with, I wouldn't say a new meta, but they just go with prefer their own picks rather than, you know, playing the standard meta, which we normally witness, because we can imagine what we would have witnessed, probably like a Doom or something else instead. But of course, with that being banned, it's a little bit more different. But you can see there as well, 21 items for Strongsage, it was 16 items for SIB. And the damage was actually very close. It was actually 43 damage difference between the two. But again, Strongsage's clutch continued to be very, very scary stuff.
I mean, you expect the damage to be quite heavily favoured in the corner of SIB, actually. So the fact it's even is again, indicative of why we saw such a dominating performance from Strongsage. And it can still get better. As I mentioned, there are still elements of his game that he does rush on the clutch in favor of movement. If he could find that balance even better and hit more of the shots as he does on other champions, he becomes even scarier. But it's his decision-making, his movement, the speed, it's very scary. But we've also seen him lose on it. So it's definitely not immortal. But we saw again today, if you give Strongsage the picks he wants and he gets to set the tempo, he is incredibly scary. If you drag him into more of a methodical, classical duel, and particularly if you could force close combat fights, rocket fights, he's very, very vulnerable still. So a lot for him to develop and learn. Whereas SIB again today, I go back to the drawing board and say I question the picks, and he didn't show me any reason on any one of the maps why he decided to pick that, beyond wanting to practice against a Strongsage in those circumstances. Yeah, didn't look like they had a chance otherwise.
Yeah, but fabulous stuff though for Strongsage. At least he gets that 3-0 victory, which he's been desiring for quite a while. It's going to put him a spot or two above where he currently is. I know he's 12th with 10 matches, so he's got 1 or 2 matches left in hand compared to the rest of the pack, so it's going to help him breach towards that top 10 spot potentially. It depends exactly how things will escalate throughout the course of today, because we know that Nosra played earlier, so he should be at least 11th no matter what, considering the circumstances here. But, well, commiserations to SIB anyway. He had a good second map, but of course first and third were just quite one-sided from what we've seen. Even with SIB, with the knowledge of the clutch and how to deal with it, it was a pretty tough road for him.
Yeah, it would have been painful loss. But as I said, maybe it was a learning experience. We set out to try and experiment with how to counter that. But either way, he definitely, hopefully, would have learned a lot from today.
Well, I hope so for his sake, crikey, because it's not like there's only 1 or 2 clutch players, as I mentioned. It's like 4, maybe even 5. I feel like I might be missing one, but it might just be me doing the usual and forgetting stuff. But we've got 3 more matches left to go. We're just at the halfway stage here. The next matchup will be between Wenger and Avec. Another spicy matchup for you guys at home. So, guys, don't go anywhere. I'll be back in just a few minutes.